Hey guys, Kamina the Coach, second video tonight. I never make videos at night, but I really needed to get this thought out, and I might have already done a video on this, but it's just so poignant to me that I feel like I need to talk about it. So for those of you new to the channel, I've been a coach for over a decade. I used to live overseas for almost a decade, and my channel was dedicated to that originally, helping people get their minds right to work, excuse me, and live overseas, Mexican food. When I returned to the United States because of COVID, I had to rethink my purpose. With my channel, I'm an adoptee, so there's a lot of trauma that comes along with adoption. So I've really started, I had to address my own adoption trauma. So I kind of rededicated the channel, but anyone with trauma, this is a safe place for you. So this is probably a hard one for a lot of people to hear. I'm gonna rearrange you one more time. Sorry. Boy, my bad. Whoops. Forgive me. All right, that's better. So you may not like what I'm gonna say in this video, but I think that it's important. I think that oftentimes it's hard to have, when we're in the midst of our struggle, it's hard to have compassion for our abusers. I also think that it's having compassion and understanding where our abusers came from is part of our own healing process, and it helps take away some of the bite, some of the anger, because we were children. So this video is about why so many adoptive mothers are so horrible. If you listen to Who Am I Really by Damon Davis, it is a podcast, a really amazing adoptee podcast. If you listen to those stories, and I can only do it ever so often because I am highly sensitive, and listening to other adoptees is occasionally triggering for me. So I don't listen to all the time, but I would say about 90% of the time, every adoptee says that their mothers were cold. And then by mother, I mean adoptive mother. Even if your mother didn't physically abuse you, verbally abuse you, or to the eyes of the world neglect you, if she was cold, if you're an adoptee, 9 times out of 10, she probably was. I just want to talk about what caused that. And I think that for me, understanding it just, I remember when I was little, and so you need to remember that I'm a late discovery adoptee. I didn't find out till I was 32 that I was adopted. So my whole childhood, my whole adult life, I thought this woman hated me. I could not figure out why she hated me. I can remember one time where I was held. Once. I can remember wanting to be held, and she wouldn't hold me. I can remember crying, I might have been 3rd or 4th grade, crying desperately because my puppy died, and she was so cold and hard to me. Why? Why are so many adoptive mothers like this? So I want to believe that today that adoptive mothers are doing better. I know that my bestie that I'm friends with right now, her sister adopted some children from Haiti, and they are actively in therapy. They're actively in contact with their mother in Haiti. So I know that there are some adoptive, and I know that even back then when I was a child being adopted, and even before in the 60s scoop, that maybe that there were some mothers getting it right. More often than not, they weren't. And let's talk about why. So first of all, therapy is a whole knew, how many people were going to therapy in the 60s? Not many, really. Let's be realistic. Also, women's rights is a relatively new thing. Women weren't even really like allowed to like freely have sex until the women's liberation movement. Roe v. Wade, the right to have an abortion just before I was born. So women have been oppressed for, can we say, just for sake of argument, a really long time. So we're talking about an era of repressed women with no therapy, whose mothers probably weren't always the best to them, marrying because society told them they needed to get married. So they might or might not have loved this man that they married, but they didn't have much choice. Majority, not everyone, but majority. So they've married this man, and now it is their duty to have children. What happens when they can't? So society has told you this is what you need to do. And they continue to tell us that. When I lived overseas, good God, everybody was like, how old are you? Why don't you have a family? How old are you? Why don't you have a family? It's just exhausting, the pressure that society puts on women to get married and have kids, get married and have kids. Even today, 2022, get married and have kids, get married and have kids, get married and have kids. So you've been brought up without therapy, possibly by a bad mother, possibly married a man that you weren't that into, but you needed to. Now you're trying to have children and you can't. So not a lot of science-assisted stuff back then, but still not always easy to adopt children back then either. So going through this intensely rigorous process to adopt a child, or paying a lot of money to adopt a child. So we've got all this history of trauma up until the time that this baby comes to this family, this already wildly dysfunctional family. And so mom has carrying all this trauma, and then it's a new trauma, that not being able to have a baby trauma, which people really don't talk about and should talk about a lot more. I recognize that is an intense trauma. So mom has likely had no therapy ever, and now they bring her a stranger's baby. Do you know they call the next 9 months after a woman has her baby the 4th trimester, because the baby doesn't even know that she or he is separate of mother's body until they are about 9 months old, outside of the body. So they've brought this baby who is in fear of death, right? So in the gestation period, this baby has been inside a safe, warm, cozy space, hearing its mother's heartbeat, smelling her blood, hears her voice. It undergoes this violent birthing process, which is hugely traumatic in of itself. It comes out into this bright, cold world, whether it's been held by its mother or not. It's then whisked away from her to another cold, scary room. This equals death. Babies don't have the ability to rationalize like an animal, like a dog or cat or anything else. Babies aren't born able to rationalize. But all animals know life or death, and this baby is in a life or death situation. Crying, 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 crying. If you hear, go ask, if you're still speaking to your adoptive mother, go ask her if you cried a lot, or maybe she told you cried a lot. The reason you cried a lot is because you thought you were dying. So this woman that's carrying all this stress, who couldn't have this baby, who is stressed, has a chip on her shoulder already, is brought this stranger's baby who is in fear of death. Do you think that this baby wants to snuggle this woman who is carrying, so a baby, like just much like animals, really feeling the mother's energy, the adoptive mother, feeling her energy. So this baby that thinks that it's dying, do you think it's really eager to bond with this very emotionally bound woman? Not usually. So this woman's so desperate to have a baby, now has this baby that cries constantly, who won't snuggle her, who won't bond with her. And this happens repetitively, again and again and again. It's like an owner that has a dog that repeatedly bites it. Even if the owner loves its dog, eventually it begins to have a type of resentment towards that dog. I love this dog, but it's bitten me 5 times. Eventually, even though I say I love the dog, I start to develop this resentment towards the dog. So same thing with the baby. She tries. And there's just, there's something different for a mother who has birthed a child versus a woman who was given somebody else's. And there's only so many times she's going to try before that resentment sets in. And I feel certain that's what happened with my adoptive mother. I don't know why I was adopted. She had a child before me. I don't know why I was adopted. I think maybe she had tried to have another baby and probably couldn't. That's my guess, because my adopted brother is 10 years older than me. So I'm assuming she had probably tried and couldn't. I know that making an attempt to understand her struggle has really helped me a lot. I forgive her. It's not okay. It's not an excuse, but it definitely has helped me to understand. So maybe this isn't the case for your female adopter. I don't know for sure that it's the case for mine, but it makes a lot of sense, and maybe it makes sense to you as well. Anger doesn't serve any of us. Being angry at the people that hurt us is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. We have to do something productive with that anger. So I encourage you to find a way, an outlet for it. I do scream therapy whenever I'm feeling it. I do lots of coloring. It helps me get it out. Get that anger out some way. Find some way to have compassion for your abuser, because it's not serving you to hold on to that anger. I only share this out of love, light, peace, and joy. You know I only want the best for you. My healing is your healing, and anything I can share with you that would help you grow, I wouldn't lie to you, I promise. So, as always, Camina the Coach, wishing you love, light, peace, and joy. Until next time.